In this video, you're going to understand why ignoring someone can be more powerful than any response you could ever give. And no, this isn't arrogance. This is strategy. This is power being accumulated in silence. You've been losing power every single day, and you never even noticed where it started. It wasn't obvious. No one sat you down and taught you this. It happened quietly. Every time you responded to someone who didn't deserve your words. Every time you tried to explain yourself to people who had already decided to misunderstand you. Every time you felt the need to prove something. And in each of those moments, you gave something away. A piece of your attention, a piece of your control, a piece of your peace. And the most dangerous part is that you did it believing you were being strong. But there's a truth that very few people understand, and once you see it, everything changes. The one who reacts loses. This goes against everything you were taught. You were told to defend yourself, to respond, to show who you are. But in the real world, that makes you predictable. And anything predictable can be controlled. Niccolo Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He observed leaders, kings, strategists, and he noticed a pattern that repeated itself again and again. The man who responds to everything exposes himself. The man who explains too much weakens himself. The man who reacts gives himself away. But the man who controls when to act becomes unreachable. And in a moment, you're going to understand something even more dangerous. Why ignoring someone can make them think about you for days, without you saying a single word. But first, you need to see the mistake, because it's not in other people. It's in what you do, without realizing it. There's something you give away constantly, without even noticing: your attention. And this is not something small. This is power. Every time you give someone your attention, you are telling them, this matters. Now think carefully. How many things in your life don't deserve importance, but still receive your energy? Pointless arguments, provocations, people who add nothing to your life. And even so, you respond, you engage, you participate, and in that moment, you lose control. Because whoever controls your attention controls you. That's why some people seem different. They don't chase, they don't explain, they don't justify themselves, and still they are respected, desired, observed. You've seen this before. People who speak less, but when they do, everyone listens. People who are not always available, but when they appear, they shift the entire atmosphere. That's not luck, that's control. And if you're starting to see this now, subscribe to the channel, because here you're not going to learn what feels comfortable. You're going to learn what actually works in the real world. The biggest mistake you make is not talking too much. It's feeling like you need to talk, like you need to respond, to explain, to be understood. And that is where you lose yourself. Because the moment you depend on someone else's reaction, you've already lost control of the situation. Strong people don't operate like that. They don't need to be understood by everyone. They don't need to respond to everything. They don't need to prove anything. And that creates something powerful: mystery. And mystery completely changes the way people perceive you. Because when someone cannot read you, cannot predict you, cannot understand your reaction, they lose control. Predictable people are easy to manipulate. You know exactly how they will react. You know what to say to provoke them. You know how to get a response. Now, think about the opposite. Someone who doesn't react as expected. Someone who doesn't respond immediately. Someone who simply doesn't play the game. That person breaks the pattern. And when the pattern breaks, the other person feels it. They feel uncertainty. And the human mind hates uncertainty. It hates not knowing. It hates not having answers. It hates the absence of control. And that's exactly what begins to happen. And here's something almost no one realizes. The more you explain yourself, the less value your words have. The more you respond, the less impact your presence creates. And the more available you are, the less rare you become. And in the world of power, what is common loses value, but what is rare becomes desired. And this is exactly why the strongest people are not the loudest. They are the most controlled. They don't waste energy trying to win every argument. They don't try to convince everyone. They don't enter every conflict. They choose. They choose when to speak, when to act, and most importantly, when to ignore. Now understand this carefully. When you ignore someone, you're not just staying silent. You are creating a void, and the human mind cannot handle a void. When someone doesn't get a response, their mind starts searching. What happened? Did I do something wrong? Did they see it? Do they not care? And that cycle doesn't stop. They start replaying everything, every message, every interaction, every detail. They try to find an answer, even if there isn't one. And while you move on with your life, they stay stuck inside their own mind. You become an unresolved question, and that is power without effort. This is not theory. This is basic psychology. Social rejection activates the same areas in the brain as physical pain, which means being ignored actually hurts. Not just emotionally, but physically, in the chest, in the stomach, in the mind. And the more they try to understand, the deeper they get trapped. And here is the point that changes everything. When you respond, you close the loop, but when you ignore, you keep them inside it, without effort, without confrontation, without saying a word. That's why ordinary people chase attention, and dangerous people use absence as a weapon. But there's something even deeper than this. Ignoring is not disappearing, because disappearing completely creates forgetfulness. The real power is something far more subtle. Strategic withdrawal. There is a huge difference between someone who disappears and someone who is present, but unreachable. The first is forgotten, the second is observed. Think about someone who is always available, always replying fast, always saying yes, always there. At first, it feels good, but over time, they become common, predictable, and what is predictable loses value. Now think about the opposite. Someone you never fully understand. Sometimes they respond, sometimes they don't, sometimes they show up. Sometimes they disappear. You never know exactly where you stand, and that creates something dangerous. Expectation. And expectation traps attention. You start thinking about that person more, watching them more, trying to understand them. Without realizing it, you're investing energy into them. And that is what creates attraction, respect, and influence. Machiavelli understood this clearly. The man who becomes too accessible loses his value. The man who controls his presence controls the game. But now comes the part most people fail at, because understanding this is easy. Applying it is not. Because when someone disrespects you, you feel it. When someone provokes you, you want to respond. When someone attacks you, everything inside you demands reaction. And this is where people lose. They know the strategy. but they cannot control what they feel. You need to develop something rare, controlled indifference, not coldness. Control, feeling the trigger and choosing not to react, seeing the disrespect and refusing to engage, recognizing the game and deciding not to play. Because the moment you react emotionally, you become predictable. And the moment you become predictable, you become controllable. Weak people react. Average people argue. But people in control choose which battles don't even deserve to exist. And that changes everything. In relationships, the one who needs less has more power. At work, the one who doesn't show desperation wins. In social dynamics, the one who doesn't seek approval stands out, because while everyone is trying to be seen, you become impossible to ignore. And here's the highest level of all this: calculated inaction. Most people think power is inaction, doing more, saying more, reacting more. But in reality, the strongest moves are made without movement. When someone tries to provoke you and you don't respond, you force them to continue the game alone. When someone tries to compete with you and you ignore it, you show that you're not even playing the same game. When someone talks about you and you don't react, you let time destroy it for you. While others burn energy, you accumulate power. And this creates something extremely rare: a presence that cannot be read, a person that cannot be predicted, a mind that cannot be controlled. And this is the final point. You are not becoming cold, you are becoming selective. Your attention is no longer free, your presence is no longer guaranteed, your energy is no longer accessible, and that changes everything. Because the world does not respect those who explain too much. The world respects those who don't need to explain. From now on, you don't react, you don't chase, you don't justify yourself. You observe, you choose, you control. And when you do that, something inevitable happens. People start watching you more, trying to understand you, trying to reach you. But it's too late. Because now, you're no longer playing their game. If you made it this far, then you already understand what most people never will. Comment below, "I control my power." And if you want to master this mindset, subscribe to the channel. Because this is just the beginning.